expand our imagination.
Justification for being what you are.
Welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm Bob Orr. As public fear and anger over illegal immigration along the southwest border mounts, President Obama now is ordering up to 1,200 troops to that area and asking Congress for an additional $500 million to help slow the flow of migrants across the border. Now, there are critics on both sides of the aisle saying that's not enough troops, but there are others that say there needs to be a clearer strategy to combat arms and drug smuggling. According to a CBS News poll just released on Tuesday, 56% of Americans questioned see illegal immigration as a, quote, serious problem. And 52% think Arizona's tough new immigration law is, quote, just right. Now, joining me to talk about this today, Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and Ali Noorani, the Executive Director of the National Immigration Forum. Thanks to both of you. Congresswoman Giffords, first of all, about the White House plan, 1,200 National Guard troops, $500 million. Is this enough? Is it a step in the right direction? What's your sense?
Well, I was really pleased yesterday to announce that the president was going to deploy the National Guard back to the southwest border. It's true that many of us called for more guardsmen to be placed on the border, but this is a first step, and it's a good first step. Now, this isn't our last step, but again, on behalf of my constituents down in Cochise County, on behalf of Rob Krenz, who was tragically murdered on his own ranch on March 27th, the problems that we have out in the rural parts of southern Arizona, even to this day, are really out of control. The Tucson sector last year apprehended 220,000 illegal immigrants. That's down from 500,000 just a few years before. So we see, yes, the Department of Homeland Security has put more resources on the border, and apprehensions are down, but still, any given day, 700, 800, 1,000 apprehensions in our sector. Also interesting to note that the drug seizures are climbing very steeply. There's been more pressure on the drug cartels in Mexico, here in the United States as well. So last year, record number of marijuana seizures in the Tucson sector, 1.2 million pounds of marijuana. It goes up year after year after year. There's a real crisis on the border. We absolutely need to secure the border. The National Guard is an important first step.
I guess the question is, how much of a difference is this going to make? A few years ago, President Bush sent 6,000 National Guard troops there. Senator John McCain says he'd like to see more. Do you think this is enough? Would you like to see more? And what kind of difference will this make?
Well, a couple of things. We can't confuse this deployment with Operation Jumpstart. That was the last time the Guard was on the border. And frankly, they were there in a support capacity while the Department of Homeland Security was ramping up and training the increase in the boots on the ground, the actual U.S. Border Patrol. That's not really this mission right now. They're going to be focusing on a lot of the narco trafficking, the drugs. They're going to be providing intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance. They're really in a different capacity at this point. You know, this is a start. And again, out in Cochise County, where the worst part of the problem is actually taking place, at that time when President Bush had those guardsmen deployed, they were never out in that part of southern Arizona.
Let me give Ali Noorani a chance to weigh in here. What about this? Sending National Guard troops there, military presence on the border, what's wrong with that idea?
Well, number one, there is a great amount of fear and anxiety in Arizona, and the situation in Arizona needs to change. However, there's an ugly truth here. The ugly truth is that as long as this administration and this Congress goes without fixing our immigration system, what will happen is that these types of political moves will take place. So we will have the National Guard on the border. But the fact is we may make life tougher and tougher for the landscaper, but for the drug or the gun smuggler, all they have to do is load up that truck and go through a port of entry. So what we're saying is that if we're going to move resources to the border, let's secure the ports of entry where the majority of smuggling happens. And let's fix the immigration system so that landscaper can actually enter the country legally like he or she wants to, and the folks who are here illegally are required to register for legal status. To just put boots on the ground on the border does nothing to fix the problem and does nothing to actually make Arizona any safer. That's what we want, is a safe Arizona, a safe border, and a safe country. This does nothing to do that.
I mean, are you saying this is lip service, just kind of political theater? I mean, what are you saying?
What the president did yesterday and what the Republicans continue to do is just pure kabuki theater. This is a waste of federal resources, and this time and this energy should be spent fixing our immigration system, because that is how you fix our border, how you secure our border. John McCain used to get this. used to understand that to secure our border, we need to fix our immigration system. And that is the kind of leadership that we would love to see from somebody like John McCain, but that is what we absolutely need from the president moving forward.
Let me ask Congresswoman Giffords about immigration reform. It doesn't seem like it's
actually,
imminent. Go ahead.
I need to jump in there because I completely disagree. And I would like to personally invite you to come down to Cochise County, to my district, and you tell me that it wouldn't matter. I mean, the ranchers that I represent, you see their homes, the ranchers, you see what the destruction on their property. You see it's every single day. The fences that are being cut, the houses that are being vandalized. You cannot tell me that having the troops, whether it's the National Guard or the Border Patrol on the border, is not going to make a difference.
But
That's absolutely not true.
as the president said yesterday, these National Guardsmen and women will not be, in essence, enforcing immigration law. In fact, they have limited authority to do so. The people who are crossing the border, the individuals who, in essence, are coming for the American dream, they need to fix the immigration system so they have a system to go through. If we're going to secure our border, we actually need those resources that we're spending on the National Guard at ports of entry. That's the problem. So to fix the immigration system means securing our ports of entry, means allowing people to come to the country on a legal status, and requiring people who are here legally to register for legal status.
Congresswoman, let me jump in here and ask you, well, where are we on immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform? It doesn't seem like that's imminent, and some skeptics or cynics might say, this looks like a political down payment on something in the distance. Where are we on that?
Well, first and foremost, we have to secure the border. I really don't believe at this point in the national dialogue that we're going to have a comprehensive bill until we really finally secure the border. And we know it's, we're always going to have situations. I mean, the United States is a very big country, but what's happening right now, and the apprehensions speak for themselves, every single day in the Tucson sector, anywhere between 700 and 1,100 apprehensions every single day in my sector. And for every individual we apprehend, 2, 3, 4, who knows how many actually continue to get through. And what's happening with, again, the increase in the drug smuggling is that it's more violent, it's more dangerous, and the incredible amount of terror that has been rained on the Mexican people is now coming north with the drug smuggling. Now, I agree, and many of us in Arizona, Congressman Jeff Flake, Senator McCain, and Senator John Kyle, myself, have advocated in the past for a comprehensive immigration reform bill. I think we need to do it for a lot of different reasons. But we have to secure the border first. And that means all of this discussion about national security, and I serve on the House Armed Services Committee, the billions that we send abroad, we have to protect the United States. National security means border security. We have to protect the borders.
All right, real quickly, and I'm just asking for a short answer here. The new immigration enforcement law in Arizona, very, very tough law, very controversial. What is your take on that?
Yeah, well, if I had been in the state legislature at the time, I wouldn't have voted for it. Frankly, it does absolutely nothing to deal with our problem, which is securing the borders. Border security should be the priority. Again, the legislature passed it. There's some constitutional challenges to it. I have deep concerns about what it means for our community. I don't think U.S. citizens should be racially profiled. It's a big problem that potentially we could be facing. But again, national security is our priority, in my opinion, and this bill does nothing to secure the border.
And quickly, Ali, what's your sense of this law? It's been very controversial.
Very controversial, and in fact, we just there was a partner organization that released polling yesterday that found 84% of individuals, of voters who support the Arizona law, actually support and want comprehensive immigration reform at the federal level. The reason they like the Arizona law is because they're doing something. I think, and we think, it is a bad law for all the reasons the Congresswoman outlined. But 84% of supporters of that Arizona law said, you know what, this is the responsibility of Congress, this is the responsibility of the president, and they need to get to work.
Ali Noorani, thanks for joining us today. Congresswoman Giffords, thanks very much for joining us from Capitol Hill. And that debate will go on for some time. But from that immigration debate, we now move to a different debate over Don't Ask, Don't Tell, after the White House and congressional Democrats reached a proposed agreement to repeal that controversial policy. But Secretary of Defense Robert Gates gave what you might say was a lukewarm endorsement on Tuesday, saying that the military review, should be completed before there's any legislation to repeal the current law on the books. Let's bring in David Martin. He's our national security correspondent at the Pentagon. David, where are we on this?
Well, it looks like it's going to be brought to the House floor and to the Senate Armed Services Committee on Thursday. But, Bob, it's important to remember here that there are basically two barriers to gays serving openly in the military. One is the military itself, which is very dubious of the proposition, and two is Congress, which passed into law this Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. So if there is a vote, and if it passes, those are two ifs, then one barrier, the congressional law against gays serving openly in the military, has been removed. But there is still the military position, and the military is conducting this study, which is not going to be completed until December 1st, on what it would take to implement gays serving openly in the military. And this is everything from military readiness to what new barracks construction would be required. It's a huge undertaking just to study it, much less to implement it. But the timing is important here because everybody expects the Republicans to make gains in the mid-year election. So if the don't ask, don't tell law is not repealed by this Congress, then it's probably not going to be repealed. So this is a very important vote for supporters of allowing gays to serve openly in the military.
And how do you read Secretary Gates's reaction? He's trying to buy some time here for the review. What's going on there?
He's being a loyal Secretary of Defense, going along with what his Commander-in-Chief, President Obama, wants done. But he would much prefer to have it the other way around, complete the study first by December 1st, and then have a vote. But members of Congress and members of the gay community see this right now as their chance, and they're going for it.
And David, I didn't warn you about this, but another big item in the news, of course, are the tensions in the Korean Peninsula. What's the Pentagon saying about the situation there?
Well, despite all the warlike talk that's gone back and forth between North and South Korea, the U.S. forces in Korea have not been put on a higher state of alert yet. So whatever the U.S. military is seeing the North Korean military do in terms of preparing for war, it's not enough to set off alarms. There have been historically periods like this of blood-curdling rhetoric and of blood-curdling action in which North Korea has taken military action against the South. But in the end, they always seem to go back to this sort of Cold War state in which no shots are fired. And I think the reason for that is regime survival. North Korea knows that if it starts a war, that's the end of North Korea. And it's hard to put yourself in the minds of the North Koreans because they are so totally isolated from the rest of the world. But if survival is their primary goal, then war is not the way to get there.
And the leaders in the North clearly playing to a domestic audience there, too.
Yeah.
All right. David Martin at the Pentagon, thanks very much for joining us today.
Sure thing.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but that is it for Washington Unplugged. Join us again tomorrow right here on CBSNews.com. I'm Bob Orr. Have a good day.